attempts to exercise direction and control, and with the attempts of management scientists to find ever better ways of doing this. A central theme of the book, however, is that we cannot begin to understand management without also keeping in mind the more colloquial and ironical uses of the term managing. Yes, managers control and direct, but because managers are human, and because the people they manage are also human, things rarely work out quite as intended. So the practice of management is not just about controlling things, but also about coping with things that are out of control, or out of the manager's control, but still have to be dealt with somehow. The study of management, similarly, has to take account of, or find ways to justify not taking account of, the inevitable fallibility and sheer unpredictability of the people who manage and are managed. This human dimension makes the study of management extraordinarily rich. Like all social sciences, it faces the intriguing challenge of applying rational scientific methods to predict the outcome of obstinately irrational and unpredictable actors. Unlike many branches of the social sciences, however, management is essentially practical. Its science is developed in order to be used in the form of organizational technologies, and the consequences of any failure to bridge the gap between assumptions and reality are all too evident. The same human dimension also impacts on the practice of management. Because humans have a propensity to lose or escape control, management as a practice can be immensely frustrating. But for the very same reason, it can also be immensely rewarding. We shall look more closely at the practice of management, at managing, or what managers do, in Chapter 2. First, though, to set the scene, it will help to look a bit more closely at what characterizes us as human beings, and how these characteristics relate to the task of management. The human condition, reason, and its limits. A central concept here is rationality, or the power of reason. Of all the extraordinary abilities that humans possess, the power of reason is probably the most extraordinary. Together with its emotive counterpart, sympathy or human-heartedness, it defines what it means to be human. Its fruits are most strikingly evident in the achievements of science and technology, in computing and communications technologies, biotechnology, medicine, and so on. But it's also a core aspect of everyday life. We may not be great at it, but most of us can argue in a logical, seemingly objective way from premises to conclusions. We can critically assess each other's claims and arrive at sophisticated, evidence-based judgments. And we can formulate and execute complex plans in order to achieve our objectives. This reasoning ability is central to management. In business schools, in business and management texts, and in many work organizations, management is portrayed as an entirely rational, technical activity. The core of a manager's job, as generally conceived, is to rationally analyze the situations with which she is presented and make rational decisions about how to address them. Businesses and other work organizations are themselves seen as distinctively rational entities devoted to rational ends, most typically the maximization of profit or shareholder value, or the achievement of maximum output for minimum cost. All this is fine, so long as we don't forget, as people often do forget, that reason has its limits. Some scholars claim that the whole notion of objective reason is a myth. They argue that rationality itself, and the sciences built upon it, are essentially subjective, the products of a particular society and the power relations within that society. That is probably going too far. It is true that all scientific theories end up being flawed and inadequate compared with their successors, and the processes by which they change are indeed social and political as much as rational. But their extraordinary predictive success